I don't like cables hanging all over the driver's compartment when we're going on trips in the car, and we're going to be doing a lot of 2-hour trips in this vehicle. So I decided to put a USB jack on the dashboard, so when I plug my phone in, you can see the NATO mount right there. The phone will sit there, the wire will come up behind it and plug into the USB instead of having to come between us and into the console between the seats. So I found a company on Amazon that offered an extension cable that had a panel jack on the other end. It's got a female panel jack, a female USB jack there, and I was able to cut a hole in the dash and push it in, and the retention clips hold it in place. The other day I installed a NATO cell phone mount on my dash. As you can see, it's functioning, it holds the phone, but there's an issue. There's no outlet or USB up there, so I can't charge my phone unless I come down to the cubby for the power or into the glove box in the center console for the USB. What I'm hoping to do today as I personalize this is take an extension cable for the USB, well, that's over here, cut a hole in the top of the dash and install that, since it has a retentive type of USB head to it. So we're going to see if we can do that. We're going to have to remove all the trim here. If I'm really lucky today, the radio will have a second USB outlet behind it, or even a single, and I can just unplug the existing one and plug in the new one there for a shorter run. We'll see. Worst that happens is I have to run the cable from the glove box all the way up to the dash. Not the end of the world. So we'll see what happens. First thing we're going to do is take off the trim, which I gather should be relatively easy. I just have to pry this piece up. Then I think we have 2 screws over here, and then the others just pry up. So we'll be back. This silver trim ring has to come off. By the way, you hear the beeper going because I had to put the car in park and move the shift lever to neutral. So that we take off, and then this gently pried up from back here, and I'm going to lift it out the rest of the way. And I'm going to use 2 hands for that, so we'll be back. Now the front clips are at right angles to the rear clips, and they came out relatively easily. I did use a trim instrument, one of these. You can get a set of them on Amazon. I think I paid $8 for these a couple years ago. They're really neat to have around. Now we got 2 screws to remove to pop the next panel with the 12-volt adapter in it. As well as the screws, you're also going to have to remove the little bushing that was there that now I have to retrieve, because that helps hold the piece in place. And now this all comes off in one piece. So we'll see what we're dealing with behind it now. Still have to retrieve that little plug. Now it looks like I've got the USB cable mounted. I was able to do it. I drilled 4 holes in the 4 corners, then used a moto tool to cut out the center, and that's what it will look like on the dash. So now I just have to run a short length of cable from there to my phone, and we'll be in business. Oh, by the way, I was able to retrieve that plug. I did have to pop the side of the footwell there to get it out though, but it was right there. So now we'll put it back together and see what happens. I popped the bracket in the center console so that I could drill a hole on the edge there so that the new USB cable could come in and plug into the old jack, since I could not access the rear, a jack on the rear of the stereo. There is none there. So it's not as neat as it could have been, but you know what? Nobody sees it in there. It's sort of out of the way in the center console, and as you'll see in a minute, all you see is the cable anyway. Now here we are back in the center console. As you can see, the cable now comes in through the side of that panel jack, and the USB plug plugs into the old USB port. So we've added an extension cable to come out at the dash. The jack is still live, so if I want to unplug it here and put a USB stick in, I can. And now we're good to close it up and use the damn thing. So there we have it. It's all hooked up, put back together. The phone is charging. If we can see that there. Pardon me. And the Bluetooth is working. I tried a memory stick in the USB, and that was working as well. So I guess we're got it all done. So if you have any interest, it just gets the wires out of my way, and they're just tucked up behind it. If I can find a shorter cable, that might do the trick. I had to go with the 3-foot cable. The 1.5 feet was a little too short. So there you go, for what it's worth. So we're back where we started from. We have a nice flush mount panel jack USB port there. We have the NATO mount in a convenient location. Everything is nice. It went together very well. The only change I may make may be to get a right angle USB adapter so that the cable doesn't pop up the way you saw in the end of the video. So that way it would be a neater looking run. So if you like the idea and you try it, this was not a big deal. It was just a little time consuming, but